what we saw last night was a game that just went off the hook, went off the rails as soon as Marlon Humphrey yanked the ball out of Chase Brown's hands with about 6 and change to go in the third quarter last night. The Cincinnati Bengals came out swinging. They came out swinging with Joe Burrow, who is on an MVP-type run if he only wasn't now 4-6. And Jamar Chase just absolutely crushing it again for these two, taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And then as soon as the Ravens made a defensive play and turned the ball over or took the ball away from Cincinnati, momentum put on a purple helmet and a purple uniform. And what we saw from Lamar Jackson in the fourth quarter is the stuff of which MVP seasons are made. And the back and the forth and the back and the forth leading to a 2-point conversion attempt at the end of the game for the Bengals to go ahead and try and win it. I thought it was an absolute must try. I liked the idea of going for two right there. I loved going for two right there because I'll tell you what, Lamar Jackson was not being stopped by that Cincinnati Bengals defense. And again, what we saw between these two quarterbacks, we have to sit back and take stock in how lucky we are living in this football age right now to see these two guys in the same division taking on each other twice a year in division. And if the Bengals can actually make the playoffs, who knows, we can get a third crack at it. However, 4-6 might be a difficult spot for them to make a playoff run from. But if Trey Hendrickson keeps sacking people and Burrow and Jackson can keep and Chase can keep catching and pitching and catching together, who knows? But in terms of Jackson and Burrow making plays in the same game, last night they became the first quarterbacks of the Super Bowl era to have at least each of them 8 or more touchdown passes in the head-to-head matchups against each other in the same season. We've never seen it before because Jackson had 8 touchdown passes in the 2 games against the Bengals this year, and Burrow, including that early season contest where that game was on tilt and went into overtime, 41-38 the final. Burrow had 9 touchdown passes together. Unfortunately for Joe, though, he's 0-2 in those games, and Jackson is 2-0 in his, because what we're seeing again right now from the Baltimore Ravens is stuff we really haven't seen from the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, we've seen running before, and Derrick Henry scored a touchdown again. He scored a touchdown now in each of his first games this year, all of them together. First 10 games, he's got 10 touchdowns in these games, or he's got more than 10 touchdowns, but he's scored in each of these games. And so we've seen that before. We've seen the Ravens lean on the run game, but what we've never really seen the Ravens do is go on tilt on offense to make sure and make up for a defense that is susceptible. Normally, it's the Ravens defense doing the job, and it's the run game in support of that defense doing the job, and it's the Ravens offense that disappears at times or doesn't have a passing game of which to speak. It's famously the place where wide receivers go to die. That's why Steve Smith going there was an outlier. That's why Odell Beckham Jr. going there last year. We were talking about the Odell Beckham Jr. signing as being one of those watershed moments to tell the rest of the league of wide receivers, hey, you don't have to, run the risk of losing your career by going to Baltimore anymore. And the reason for that now is because of number 8. I know I said last week Jared Goff was the MVP of this league.
It was a good take last week.
That was 7 days ago.
No, a minute. It was that take was the take I had before Lamar Jackson played his last 2 games.
True.
Okay. And again, what he did against Denver is one thing. But what he did last night against Cincinnati, again, Cincinnati goes up 21-7 and dominated the first half of this game to the point where Lamar only had the ball for 10-plus minutes in the first half. And that was, as a matter of fact, the least amount of time, 10 minutes and 35 seconds of possession in the first half, least amount of time that Lamar Jackson has had in the first half of a game since he came into the league. And then came that moment where Chase Brown had the ball ripped out of his hands. And I don't know what happened, but the Bengals defense suddenly couldn't stop this Ravens offense worth a darn. And Lamar just started making plays. And what he did in that fourth quarter, 197 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a perfect passer rating of 158.3, which is what you need to do when the other team has a quarterback and receiver going on complete tilt. And this is what you need to have also. You need to have an offense that is so on tilt. I can't believe what I'm about to say is a Baltimore Raven offensive stat. Because, again, we all know the days even of Eddie George and even the day when they won the Super Bowl back in the day with Trent Dilfer. And then we saw struggling at quarterback until Joe Flacco arrived. And even then, Joe Flacco wasn't performing as well at the quarterback spot with the exception of that Super Bowl run like what we're seeing from Lamar Jackson over the last 5 years. But believe it or not, this is a Baltimore Ravens stat. They are the third team in NFL history to score 20 or more points and have 375 or more total yards in each of their first 10 games of a season. The other teams were the Peyton Manning-led 2013 Broncos and the greatest show on turf 2000 Rams. Peyton Manning was the MVP of the 2013 season, and Marshall Faulk was the MVP of that 2000 season. Lamar Jackson is the MVP candidate on this such team. And you want to talk about an offense on tilt. Tylan Wallace, have you ever heard of him?
No.
Okay. There's a reason why.
I've heard of him.
There's a potential, and I don't say this to denigrate. These are just stats.
Marcellus Wallace.
No.
You know,
Tylan Wallace does
Mike
sound.
Wallace.
Tylan Wallace does sound like he should be in Braveheart, right? Or Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
Sir Tylan Wallace.
He hangs out with Sir Barristan.
Seriously, Tylan Wallace came into this game with 89 career receiving yards. 89. That is it. That's all he had coming into this season.
Shout out.
He had, in one fell swoop, 84 yards on his touchdown grab last night. Tiptoeing down the sidelines, I thought, for sure, no question about it, that was not going to be a touchdown because I thought he had tiptoed out of bounds about 3 times. Instead, that's a touchdown. And Tylan Wallace now has that's 89 career yards coming into the game. He had 84 in that one play alone. 5 catches this year. Believe it or not, all 5 catches in the 2 games against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Wow.
He's a Cincinnati Bengal killer.
Jeez.
So that's working. Mark Andrews is now working. Rashad Bateman is now working. Yep. Nelson Aguilar caught a touchdown last night. It's all good. And that's the way you stop a team that has Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase going off the way that they did. After the game, Lamar talked about going against Joe Burrow in an absolute classic on Thursday night.
I just know that's a great quarterback over there. You know, it's a lot of great quarterbacks in the league, not just us two. You know, and it's a divisional game. I just know it's going to be a dogfight with regardless, because he got dog in him.
How different do those division games feel? I mean, you obviously just win one now, you got one next week. I mean, how different from a regular game is it?
I say it's like a playoff game. You know, we see each other twice a year. We pretty much know each other somewhat, and guys just trying to get after it.
He's unbelievable, guys.
Getting after it. That's one way to put it. Yeah.
10 career games with 4 more touchdown passes, tied for 4th most by any player under the age of 28. But wait, there's more. He's got the highest passer rating of 123.2 as it currently stays right there. That would be the highest passer rating in a single season in the history of the National Football League. His passing yards per game, yards per attempt, his passing touchdown to interception ratio, passer rating, and offensive yards per game right now, all very much higher than those statistics in his 2 previous MVP seasons, including last year. He now has 8 straight games with a passer rating of 100 or above. That's tied for the 3rd best in the history of the NFL, behind Peyton Manning's 9 and Aaron Rodgers' 12 of their MVP campaigns previously. He's now 19-5 in career games in prime time. I could go on, but I think you get the point.
Yeah.
The only negative last night offensively is that when he took a victory formation and took a knee, it put them under 100 yards rushing for the night. So that snaps their streak of at least 100-yard rushing. That stopped that streak at, let me get this right, 22 games. The only issue here for the Baltimore Ravens, I would say at this point in time, and I think everybody sees it, defensively, they can't stop a cold. They can't stop very much right now, and
Oh, and that's
Kyle
not
Hamilton.
traditional.
My guy Kyle Hamilton went out last night.
Yeah.
He got hurt, and at this point in time, guys, you got to be concerned about it moving forward. You have to wonder about it. Marlon Humphrey, who came up with that big defensive play last night, just was flat out honest about what needs to be done on that front.
It's not cool to win a game and you look up and the team has 300 passing every week, and it'd be different if we didn't have no guys that could play. I haven't once heard anybody say we don't have the guys, we don't have the players, we don't have the skill. We're not doing it in practice. It's clear that it's something from when we do that last preparation to the game, what is happening in that span, and we got to figure it out. So that's it's pretty simple.
And you got to figure it out, one would say, sooner rather than later. Obviously, since there's now 7 games left in the season, can you believe that? We're now down to just 7 regular season games left.
Flying.
For the Baltimore Ravens, whose bye week is in Week 14. Next up for them is at Pittsburgh. This is now on in Kraken. Because we will see what happens with the Steelers against the Commanders later this week. And you look at the standings, that's a game for first place. 100% a game for first place. And I can't wait for that one. And then after that, it's a Monday night visit to Los Angeles to take on his brother Jim. All right, here we go.
Okay, baby.
Then they come back home, kick off their December schedule against the, as of right now, red-hot Philadelphia Eagles. They go on their bye week, come back against the Giants, who are going to become one of the hottest teams in Germany, at least when I start that broadcast. Right? Yep. Say it with me. Think about it with me. Make it happen. Speak it into existence for good Lord. And then there's that final game against Pittsburgh that's on a Saturday because both those teams then play the following Wednesday on Christmas. The Ravens at Houston before finishing up against Cleveland. They have swept the Bengals, gents. That is a big-time sweep for the Ravens.
It is.
They are 7-3 going into this final 7-game stretch, needing to tighten the bolts on defense, but they have the MVP of the league. Again, he's playing like it. Got to give it up.
Got to give it up.
That 2-point conversion also. I mean, what a blessing to be able to call a 2-point conversion, have your quarterback just make a little bit of a move. Also, that throw, that touchdown pass, was that the one to Bateman where he made it look like he was running? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So let's get everybody up. Flip it up.
Little jump shot to him.
All right, he's got Mark Andrews coming on strong. He's got,
likely still there.
He's got William Wallace's long lost cousin.
All right,
Sir Tylen doing his thing.
The only thing about the Ravens, are we worried about Justin Tucker?
No, I'm not.
Guys missed more kicks this year than the previous decade, it seems like. And I'm nitpicking.
Clearly, I wouldn't be concerned about him. And certainly Harbaugh's not going to go shopping for a kicker.
I'm not saying shopping.
No,
I'm just saying,
the big thing is their defense.
We're not used to seeing him miss kicks.
I know they addressed it at the trade deadline. And also, by the way, their offense being on tilt, Deontay Johnson had just 2 catches for 6 yards. You have to assume he's going to get in the mix.
You'd think?
I mean, what a big time comeback win for this team. And the Bengals, what a complete bummer for them. 4-6 for the first time since 2020. It's the last time that they were 4-6. And for them, we'll talk about them later on. The difference between having a shot at this division and maybe missing the playoffs are these 2 games against the Baltimore Ravens that they were good enough to win. But just one mistake here, one mistake there, and the defense couldn't stop Lamar Jackson when things came down to it, or Derrick Henry. But who is, at this point in time, really able to stop them? I mean, just one last thing here before we throw to break. There was this play as well from the 12-yard line, and this is the one that set up Derrick Henry's score to make it 10 straight games to start the season with a touchdown. Lamar, on a 2nd and 8 from the 12, fades back to pass and keeps fading back. And I stopped the tape to watch it. He got as far back as the 32. He went 20 yards behind the line of scrimmage before he turned the corner, went down the sideline, and wound up on the 1-yard line. And Al Michaels summed it up perfectly. He said, name somebody else in the league right now who can do that. And Kirk Herbstreit said, nobody. There's nobody.
No.
There really is nobody. I mean, you could sit here, Jaden Daniels potentially? Like
Josh Allen?
I don't even know. 20 yards back, avoids the rush, turns the corner, and not only gets to the line of scrimmage, but gets damn near in the end zone from the 12-yard line.
The play's amazing. I'm watching it right now.
It's stupid. And Al had the perfect reaction. He goes, name somebody else in the league who can do that right now. No, there isn't. They sounded like, who can do it right? Who else can do it right now? And it's like Harbaugh. Nobody. It's really unbelievable.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.